quiet shores of the wise people of the water, where the rivers keep their secrets and the mountains stand guard. This is the High Strangeness Sleep Society. A gathering for sleepless dreamers, wanderers of the night, and seekers of the strange. Here, in the stillness of the late hours, we trace the lines between myth and memory, between the world you know and the one just beyond it. So settle in, breathe deep, and let the night unfold.
Chapter 1. A Different Question. In the 1970s, ufology was already decades deep into its search for answers. The skies had been watched, radar tapes examined, witnesses interviewed. Stories of discs, lights, and strange beings filled the pages of magazines and late-night radio airwaves. Most researchers at the time believed in one of two main paths. The first was the nuts and bolts approach. To these investigators, UFOs were advanced machines, spacecraft piloted by beings from distant stars. If they could just gather enough evidence, photographs, landing traces, pieces of debris, they would prove once and for all that Earth was being visited by extraterrestrials. The second path leaned towards psychology and folklore. This view suggested that UFO sightings were dreams, hallucinations, or misinterpretations. The lights in the sky were planets or aircraft. The strange beings were products of stress, imagination, or cultural influence. Allen Greenfield, a writer and researcher immersed in both UFOs and the occult, stepped into this landscape with a different kind of question. What if UFOs were neither spaceships nor simple illusions? What if they were something older, stranger, and harder to categorize? Greenfield began to see connections that others ignored. Strange names given during contactee encounters, odd phrases, unusual numbers, peculiar dates and locations. They seemed to form a pattern, faint but persistent, like threads running beneath the surface of ordinary reports. And if there was a pattern, there might also be a code. What if, Greenfield asked, the UFO phenomenon was not just physical but symbolic? What if it was less about ships in the sky and more about messages woven into human experience? To pursue that question, he turned not to telescopes or laboratories, but to an ancient practice, a system used by mystics, rabbis, and magicians for centuries, a system called gematria. Through gematria, words became numbers and numbers became symbols. Different words with the same value were thought to share a hidden resonance, a secret connection. By applying this system to UFO reports, the names of beings, the times and dates of sightings, Greenfield believed he had discovered a cipher, a way of decoding the phenomenon. And in it he offered not a simple answer but a doorway, a suggestion that UFOs were not just visitors from distant stars but messengers of something stranger. Something that had always been with us, just out of sight. Chapter 2. the key of gematria. To understand Greenfield's approach, we need to step into the world of gematria, an ancient system both simple and profound. At its core, it assigns numbers to letters. Words, then, are not just words, but also numbers, and those numbers can be compared, matched, and interpreted. In Hebrew mysticism, gematria was used as a way of uncovering hidden meaning in sacred texts. Two words with the same numerical value were thought to share a secret connection, even if they seemed unrelated on the surface. It was a way of peeling back the ordinary skin of language to reveal the symbolic skeleton beneath. Greenfield saw something powerful in this system. He believed it could be applied to the UFO phenomenon. If contactees reported a name, or if a witness recalled a strange word spoken during an encounter, those letters could be converted into numbers, and those numbers could reveal connections to myths, to demons, to angels, to archetypes that had haunted humanity for centuries. Imagine it. A person sees a glowing craft descend from the sky. They hear a voice give a name or see a symbol etched into the hull. To most, it is an odd detail. To Greenfield, it is a clue, a line of code left by intelligences that prefer symbols to direct speech. The Cipher suggested that UFOs were not random. They were part of a tapestry of contact experiences stretching back through time. Ancient gods, fairies, angels, demons, all of them could be masks worn by the same ultraterrestrial beings. Beings that spoke in a language not of radio signals or metal plates, but of numbers and correspondences. And there was a beauty in this idea. It suggested that our encounters with the unknown have always been part of the same story, told again and again in different guises. The secret cipher, then, was not a simple code book. It was a bridge, a way of linking modern encounters with the deep well of human spiritual tradition. A reminder that the unknown speaks in symbols, and that meaning can be found in the spaces between numbers and names. Chapter 3, Ultraterrestrials Among Us. For decades, the popular idea of UFOs centered on extraterrestrials, beings from distant stars piloting advanced ships across light years to visit Earth. It was a compelling story, and for many, it still is. But Greenfield offered a different interpretation. He spoke not of extraterrestrials, but of ultraterrestrials. The difference was subtle in sound, but profound in meaning. Extraterrestrials come from far away, from other planets or galaxies. Ultraterrestrials, by contrast, are close, very close. So close, in fact, that they may have been here all along. These beings, Greenfield argued, are not confined to spacecraft. They are not bound by the physics of rockets or the logistics of interstellar travel. Instead, they move between realities, slipping in and out of our perception like shadows at the edge of vision. They have always been with us, appearing in forms we can understand. To the ancients, they were gods descending from the sky. To medieval peasants, they were angels or demons, wings outstretched in light or fire. To those who walked the forests of old Europe, they were fairies, trickster beings from the hidden realms. And in the modern age, they wear the mask of astronauts from the stars, beings in shining suits who step from glowing disks. The ultraterrestrials are shapeshifters, not in the literal sense of flesh changing, but in the symbolic sense of meeting our expectations. They appear in ways that resonate with the cultural stories of the time. They choose forms that we are ready to see. And through the cipher, Greenfield believed their communication could be detected. Names given during encounters were not random. They carried numerical signatures that linked them to older myths, older archetypes. Places of sightings were not accidents, but part of a symbolic geography. To Greenfield, this was not just a theory, it was a revelation. They were here. They had always been here, and their messages, strange, dreamlike, and often nonsensical, were part of a hidden dialogue with humanity, stretching back through time. Ultraterrestrials, then, were not strangers. They were neighbors. Neighbors who lived just across the thin veil of perception, speaking to us in riddles and numbers, reminding us that the world is wider and stranger than we imagine. Chapter 4: Occult Parallels. In the late 16th century, John Dee, astrologer and advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, worked with a scryer named Edward Kelly. Together, they developed what they called the Enochian system, an angelic language revealed to them through visions and rituals. The words were strange, otherworldly, filled with power, and like gematria, numbers and correspondences played a role. For Dee, the language was not just words on a page, but a key to contacting higher beings. Centuries later, in 1904, Aleister Crowley claimed to have received a text dictated by a voice beyond the veil. He called it the Book of the Law. Within its passages were ciphers and puzzles, hidden messages waiting to be unlocked by initiates. Like Dee's Enochian system, it suggested that other intelligences were trying to reach humanity through symbols, not straightforward sentences. Greenfield placed UFOs into this lineage. He suggested that what contactees experienced, the odd names, the puzzling phrases, the fragments of language that made little sense, were not accidents. They were deliberate, structured messages, and the cipher was the tool to decode them. The parallels were striking. Where Dee spoke of angels, modern contactees spoke of space beings. Where Crowley's voice called itself Iwas, UFO witnesses heard names like Ashtar or Orthon. Different masks, different eras, but the same pattern. Contact through code, through symbols that seemed nonsensical until placed into the framework of a cipher. This was the heart of Greenfield's radical idea. That UFOs were not separate from the occult, they were part of the same continuum. What magicians once called spirits, what shamans called tricksters, what mystics called angels, all of them were now being interpreted through the lens of modern science fiction. But the communication, the hidden code, had never changed. For Greenfield, UFOs were not just visitors from the skies. They were participants in an ancient conversation, a dialogue between humanity and the unseen, carried out in numbers, symbols, and ciphers across centuries. Chapter 5: Patterns in the Encounters. To Greenfield, the power of the cipher was not in theory alone. It was in the patterns that began to appear when the system was applied to real encounters. Consider the stories of the contactees of the 1950s and 60s. Ordinary people who claimed to have met beings from other worlds, often with messages about peace, cosmic brotherhood, or warnings of war. Many of these beings gave names that seemed peculiar and exotic. To the casual reader, they were science fiction inventions. To Greenfield, they were clues. When those names were translated into numbers through gematria, connections emerged. Some corresponded to values already linked to angels in mystical traditions. Others aligned with the numbers of ancient gods or even demons once feared in Europe and the Middle East. The cipher, he believed, revealed that the so-called space visitors were not inventing new identities at all. They were wearing old masks, presenting themselves in forms shaped by human expectation. Another example came from the places themselves. A sighting might occur on a date with unusual numerical significance or in a location whose name, when reduced to numbers, matched the value of an archetypal symbol. To skeptics, this was coincidence. To Greenfield, it was part of the pattern. Even the strange fragments of language reported by abductees, odd syllables, half-words whispered during the liminal state of an encounter, took on new meaning when passed through the cipher. They seemed chaotic at first, but they often matched with values tied to concepts of light, shadow, or transformation. Greenfield saw these not as accidents, but as intentional. The ultraterrestrials were not speaking directly in human tongues. They were leaving breadcrumbs, signs that pointed back to the oldest stories, the oldest myths, a way of saying we are not new. We have always been here. It was never about proving the encounters in a courtroom sense. The cipher was not evidence in the scientific sense. It was a lens, a way of viewing the phenomenon as part of a hidden structure, a way of suggesting that the countless, confusing stories of UFOs, abductions, and high strangeness were not random, but interconnected. The deeper one looked, the more the connections multiplied. Names echoed across centuries, symbols resurfaced in unexpected places. The cipher turned ufology from a collection of isolated events into something more like a tapestry, a woven fabric where each thread, each number carried echoes of something larger. For Greenfield, this was the revelation. The phenomenon was not chaos, it was a conversation. Chapter 6, Skeptic's Corner. For every believer in the secret cipher, there were skeptics ready to dismiss it. To them, Greenfield's work was not revelation but imagination, dressed in the language of mystery. Their main argument was simple. Gematria can connect almost anything to almost anything. With enough patience, a researcher can take any word or phrase, reduce it to numbers, and find a match somewhere in scripture, myth, or occult tradition. If the number 93 links both to a modern UFO name and a passage in Crowley's Book of the Law, is that evidence of contact or simply the wide net of coincidence? Skeptics also pointed to psychology. Humans are natural pattern makers. Our minds search for meaning in noise, faces in clouds, constellations and scattered stars. It is how we survive, by connecting dots, even when those dots may not be connected at all. Perhaps the cipher was not a key to the ultraterrestrials, but a mirror reflecting the pattern-seeking tendency of the human mind. There were also practical concerns. If the ultraterrestrials truly wanted to communicate, why would they choose a method so obscure that only a handful of occultists could follow it? Why not speak plainly or leave behind something concrete? Wasn't a hidden code too convoluted, too roundabout, for an intelligence that could cross dimensions or manipulate reality itself? Yet, even among skeptics, there was hesitation. Because the UFO phenomenon itself had always resisted simplicity, encounters were filled with paradoxes, objects that appeared solid one moment and intangible the next, beings who delivered messages that were profound, nonsensical, or both at once. The idea that communication might be symbolic, coded, or tricksterish was not easy to dismiss. So the cipher became a dividing line. To some it was a breakthrough, to others a distraction. But either way, it added texture to the conversation, deepening the mystery rather than solving it. And for the sleepless wanderer turning these ideas over in the quiet hours, perhaps the real value was not in whether the cipher was true, but in the way it encouraged us to look differently at the unknown. To consider that meaning might hide in places we do not usually look, in names, in numbers, in the subtle resonance between words and worlds. Chapter 7. The Trickster's Hand. For those who studied the phenomenon beyond its surface details, one word returned again and again: trickster. Writers like John Keel and Jacques Vallée had noticed it long before Greenfield. UFOs did not behave like ordinary visitors. They appeared suddenly, impossibly close, and vanished without a trace. Witnesses described beings who spoke in riddles, gave warnings that never came true, or left behind evidence that dissolved the moment it was examined. The phenomenon seemed to delight in contradiction, slipping away just as the net was about to close. In this sense, the secret cipher may not have been a tool of understanding at all. It may have been part of the performance, a puzzle presented by the phenomenon itself, a way of drawing seekers deeper into the labyrinth, making them believe that meaning could be unlocked if only they calculated long enough, searched carefully enough, believed fully enough. The cipher may have been bait, a shining key that always promised to open a door, yet always led to another hallway, another set of questions. And isn't that how the trickster works? It lures us with patterns, tempts us with answers, and then slips away at the last moment, laughing in the shadows. In folklore, trickster figures teach through confusion. They frustrate in order to reveal. They leave us unsettled, but somehow wiser. Greenfield's cipher might be seen in that same light, not as a solved equation, but as an invitation to think differently about the phenomenon. To accept that the mystery is not mechanical, not tidy, not reducible to a spacecraft with nuts and bolts. Instead, it is alive. It plays with us. It tests us. Perhaps the ultraterrestrials, if they exist, never wanted to hand over the answers. Perhaps they wanted to spark curiosity, to lead us into wonder, to make us sit late at night staring at numbers and words, convinced that meaning was just around the corner. And in that way, maybe the cipher succeeded, not as a code book, but as a mirror of the trickster's hand. Chapter 8. The Legacy of the Cipher. The Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts was never a bestseller, never a book that lined the shelves of every airport newsstand. Yet in the world of UFO research and occult study, it slipped quietly into the bloodstream, becoming a kind of whispered influence. At conferences, it was the book that passed from hand to hand, sometimes mentioned only after the main talks were over, in late-night conversations between researchers leaning against hotel walls. It was the kind of text that was not always cited in public lectures but quoted in private as though sharing a secret map. Within occult circles, the cipher carried weight because it drew on familiar ground. Gematria, numerology, the linking of words and numbers, these were not alien concepts, but old tools given new purpose. Greenfield's genius was not in inventing something entirely new, but in reframing it. He wove UFO encounters into the tapestry of magical thought, placing them beside Enochian angels, Crowley's Aiwass, and the dreamlike riddles of the spirit world. Within ufology, the book was less about answers and more about permission. It gave researchers space to move beyond the rigid debate of real spacecraft versus psychological illusion. It suggested that the phenomenon could be both and neither, that it might be more like a performance or a ritual than a mission from another planet. Over the years, Secret Cipher earned its place alongside other cult classics of high strangeness. John Keel's Operation Trojan Horse, Jacques Vallée's Passport to Magonia, books that left readers with more wonder than certainty, more questions than conclusions. And that perhaps is why it has endured. In a field often divided by dogma, Greenfield's work remains a curiosity, a reminder that the phenomenon may not be solved by telescopes and radar alone. That meaning can live in the symbolic as much as in the physical. Today, seekers still mention the cipher. In quiet forums, in footnotes in late-night podcasts, the idea surfaces again that the phenomenon speaks in codes and that we are invited to listen. The book never faded because it never claimed to be final. It remains open, a door half ajar, waiting for anyone who wants to step through. Chapter 9. Reflections. The secret cipher of the UFOnauts reminds us that the unknown does not always speak plainly. Sometimes it whispers through riddles. Sometimes it hides its messages in the folds of language, in the echoes of numbers, in patterns that only emerge when we pause and look closely. Perhaps it is coincidence, perhaps it is imagination, or perhaps it is exactly the way the phenomenon has always chosen to reach us, not through clarity, but through mystery. Not through a single, undeniable answer, but through a scattering of signs that invite interpretation. The cipher may never prove anything in the scientific sense, but in another sense, it may already have done its work. It invites us to wonder. It asks us to slow down, to notice the way words and numbers hum with hidden resonance. It reminds us that our stories of the strange are not isolated, but woven together across centuries, across cultures, across masks. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine the sky not just as empty space, but as a page. Letters and numbers scattered like stars, waiting to be read. Imagine the possibility that meaning flows through those symbols, that the unknown may be closer than you think. Breathe in, breathe out, and let the mystery settle softly as the night carries you into sleep. You have been listening to the High Strangeness Sleep Society. From the quiet shores of the wise people of the water, where the rivers keep their secrets and the mountains stand guard. Until we meet again, good night and sleep well.